This episode of Simple Civics Greenville County is brought to you by Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, providing free books to children 0 to 5 throughout Greenville County. To sign up, visit greenvillefirststeps.org/free books. That's greenvillefirststeps.org/free books.
Parent and community engagement are essential to the success of our public schools, and there are many pathways for folks to get involved, even if they don't have children in the schools. Two of those are parent-teacher associations and school improvement councils. I'm Katherine Schumacher with Public Education Partners, and on today's episode of Simple Civics EdTalks, we are going to explore the similarities and differences between PTAs and SICs and how you can get connected to support teachers, students, and schools. Today's deep dive features Derek Lewis, Executive Director of Greenville First Steps, and guests Alecia Brewster, an experienced SIC leader at multiple schools in Greenville County, and Christi Wagner, Greenville District PTA President.
We are thrilled to have Christi and Alecia with us today to talk about ways families get involved in schools. And so I think specifically we're going to talk a little bit about the PTAs and the school improvement councils, or the SICs. And so we're thrilled that you guys are bringing that experience to us. Christi, let's start with you. So let's talk about PTA. So, I think a lot of people's perceptions of what a PTA is basically how they see a PTA on a typical day, like selling chicken biscuits or, doing a fundraiser, which is such a small piece of PTA. So just maybe very generally, like what is a school's PTA's purpose?
The PTA supports the students, the teachers, the whole community. And a lot of times there are those misconceptions that all they do are fundraisers, but it's primarily an advocacy organization. So we're really trying to make sure that we look at the whole child and make sure just to serve well in those capacities.
And so parents can join the PTA and be a part of the organization. And the PTA has regular meetings during the year. What would a typical PTA meeting involve?
So hopefully they join the PTA. Some people don't realize that you need to join the PTA every single year. And some people think that if they join the PTA, that means they're obligated to volunteer. And that's not necessarily the case. We welcome them to volunteer, but they don't have to volunteer. And members can be parents, teachers. We want our teachers all to join. Some schools have students, have PTSAs. Also, community members, grandparents, all of those people can join the PTA and show their support of the school.
And school improvement councils are a little bit different. So, Alecia, tell us just a little bit about the SIC in the school.
Thank you again. And of course, I was a part of the PTA with Christi. I was one of those parents who was a member of the PTA, but probably was minimally involved in the day-to-day volunteer opportunities. So the SIC was an opportunity for me as a parent to be able to stay engaged and connected to what was happening in my schools, my children's schools. But just as an overview, it's a broad-based body that's intended to advise the principal in the school, and we're really focused on helping the school achieve school improvement.
And the SICs were actually created by the General Assembly. So there's supposed to be an SIC at every school in South Carolina. But they actually have like a specific number of places for different roles. So can you just talk a little bit about like how does one become a member of the SIC?
Absolutely. So I actually became an actual formal member of SIC as a result of my involvement from the community at Tanglewood Middle School. I was a part of the Rotary Club, one of the local Rotary clubs, and we were actively engaged in providing opportunities for students there, providing donations for teachers. And I was just asked, are you interested in representing the community as a member of the SIC? So SIC has to have parents, at least 2 parents. They have to have educators, teachers within the school, at least 2 teachers. The principal is a part of the SIC as an ex officio member, and then there are community members who are invited to participate. So I was invited in that role.
So you've got parents, you've got faculty, and then you've got spaces for people who are just members of the community that want to help that school and may not necessarily have students attending the school.
Yes, there's something for everyone at our schools. So yes.
And the SICs have meetings on a monthly basis that are usually kind of structured around an agenda. So like what are some of the things in the multiple SICs that you've been a part of, like what are some of the things that you guys have covered in an SIC meeting?
Well, the great thing about SIC meetings is that they are the calendar is created ahead of time, so people can go ahead and put the dates on their calendars. They're usually, it depends on the school. Tanglewood, for example, was really flexible for parents and community members to be able to participate. So they would have 1 month where the meeting was in the afternoons or in the evenings after school. 1 month it was in the mornings to try to get as much participation as possible. The agenda would typically include the principal giving sort of a high level, this is what's happening in the school. These are some of the things that we are really excited about. These are some of the things that we're working on. And that gives the SIC an opportunity then to be able to ask questions. And that was great for someone like me who I may not be able to come and do hands-on as much, but I love to ask questions and really be able to understand, not from a point of, accusing or, wanting to, create problems, but more so I want to know because I want to know if I have maybe connections and resources that might be able to help with improving an issue area.
Well, and I'm really glad that both of you kind of talked about that both the PTA and the SIC really kind of exist as a place where people can learn more about what's going on at the school. I know when I was on the school board, both the PTAs and SICs in our schools were really valuable resources for me to go to and just talk about like, hey, we're thinking about changing the start time for elementary school. How will that affect your families? And it was just a place where families could respond to changes. And so I just think that's such a great opportunity. Now, Christi, you talked a little bit about the PTAs being a resource for the schools. One of the things that we've experienced, I know when I was on the board, was there were times when the schools needed resources and supports that maybe the district couldn't provide for them. And so the PTAs aren't just selling chicken biscuits to have parties. Like PTAs are actually investing those dollars into often things that the teachers are asking for. So can we just talk a little bit about that kind of financial relationship between the PTAs and our schools?
So, a lot of times the PTAs will help with a lot of various needs. It can be right now we have a PTA that is partnering with the Athletic Association to try to have a food drive. There are a lot of schools that have mini grants for their teachers, and these are things where they can provide things like author visits, they can provide special hands-on things for the kids to do in their classrooms, or even sometimes potentially a field trip. I've been a part of those processes, and we have the principal involved with it as well, and sometimes the principal will have some funds that they can use as well to help meet the needs. So it's just a really good collaborative environment to be able to help meet those needs. And there's just a lot of really cool things just being part of a PTA. During COVID, the Greenville District PTA applied for a grant, and each school got $10,000 for their PTA to be able to use because we were part of a PTA organization. And I just thought that was just so cool because we couldn't fundraise then. We couldn't even be inside the schools during that time to volunteer, but we were still able to make a difference during that time.
Well, the field trips, I think, are a great example. So, we've got half the kids in our district on free and reduced meals. And so, just the cost burden for a family to be able to have their kids go to, Hendersonville to pick apples may mean children can't participate. And it's just been really exciting to see the PTA set aside money for an elementary school to say, like, this is so that everyone can go. And so the families can pay to participate. And if they can't, then we can make sure that those kids can participate without there being some sort of a barrier.
We actually have Live Well Greenville that serves on our district PTA board, and it's always good to hear what they're doing. They update us on food pantries. They update us on playground signage. Also, they'll update us on things like Berea. They're doing walkthroughs trying to see how to safely help kids walk to school. So PTA is a lot bigger than people realize. Through our district PTA, we have made connections with several Title I schools. And Alecia was actually part of that conversation about a year and a half ago. Like, hey, how can we get PTAs involved in several schools? We have Berea Middle School, Tanglewood Middle School, and Lakeview Middle School. Berea Middle School has launched. They have their own PTA board. It was a process. This hasn't been done where the district PTA tries to help step in and do this. It's trying to find volunteers, find parents that are interested. A lot of times there can be misconceptions about PTAs, and we're just trying to find ways to bridge that gap. But then also there can be language barriers in some of our schools. And we've been working closely recently, more so with Lakeview, where we had people from the district PTA board that were there at their Meet the Teacher that had a table there to try to welcome families. So we're trying really hard to try to engage all across the board, but it's not always that easy.
Well, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, and Alyssa, I know you've been involved in schools where maybe I think there may be just an assumption that every school has an active PTA and an active school improvement council. But there are definitely schools where getting parents to even have the time to be involved is a challenge, much less like just kind of getting families excited about kind of serving in these council roles. So can you just talk a little bit about what opportunities might exist for somebody that's hearing about this, doesn't have a child in school, but like, are there schools that like you can think of where individuals could get involved with their school improvement councils?
I identify completely, with the parent who may not have, ample time, as I mentioned earlier, to be really actively engaged in a day to day within their child's school, but still you can be active in your own way. And I think that one of the things that I really loved about the School Improvement Council, specifically at Tanglewood, was Tanglewood did not have an active PTA several years ago when I started getting involved over at Tanglewood Middle School, but they really, really wanted to have actively engaged parents, again, in their own way. And so our school improvement council members were able to, me in particular, I was able to go to Columbia, to University of South Carolina, to go through the Carolina Family Engagement Center to be trained as a South Carolina Parent Leader Partners facilitator and take that back to Tanglewood. And that was one way that we were able to really give an opportunity for parents to be able to come in, to be able to build relationships with one another, to be able to identify what were the ways that they felt that they could use their talents and their gifts and their interests to be able to impact the school community. And I think that's something that, is really wonderful about living in a place like Greenville County, where we have so many different schools, and all of our schools have unique things and ways that you can get involved. And one of the best ways that I think you can get involved is by identifying a person who you have some kind of relationship with, who is connected to a school, and ask. And then that person can get you connected to, the person who is responsible for whatever that area of need is in that school. But just know that there is something in every school that you can do. And it could be just being a mentor, not just that's a huge role. A lot of schools say, we would love if we could just have, X number of mentors to be able to support the students in our schools. Or they may need help with maybe some type of festival that happens once a year. They would love to have, someone to come in and face paint even. So there are so many different opportunities, and I think it's really endless, the ways that people can get involved.
So if you're not really sure how you can get plugged in, just contacting a school and saying, how can I help you? They will definitely have a list of ways that you can help.
And I would suggest don't give up. If the first person you talk to at that school says, oh, no, we don't need anything, believe me, that's not true.
Absolutely.
There is something the school needs. So don't give up there. If you know that you have a certain skill set or a certain, resource, please do just, keep on asking until you find the person who is able to get you to the opportunity.
And I would like to echo that for PTA. We have a need all around for volunteers. At my school, we've had a grandmother that served on our board. She had so much free time. And when I had to go do something with my daughter's class, she was like, I'm happy to help out with that because she had that extra time. So it's grandparents. We have community members that can serve on PTA boards. The only requirement is that you're a member of that PTA. So we welcome anyone, and SIC is the same way. There's a lot of community partners. I'm on several SIC boards as well, and I see the benefit. The first time I sat in on a SIC meeting as a PTA representative, I was like, I love this. And so I keep going back, and people don't realize with SIC that every single person in the school is invited. And I think that's invitation is just something that's just amazing.
Well, they are both such great ways for individuals to get involved in schools and to just start that work. I know I was involved in Greenville High's SIC before we had a child, and a lot of my work with school board came because of things I learned on the SIC that were opportunities that we could change. And so, I think even as you look at our current school board, most of them were PTA or SIC members before they became school board members. So, all right, so this is your last chance for the 25,000 listeners that have heard about PTAs and SICs and are ready to get involved. So, what is your last pitch to them? So, we'll start with Alecia. So, tell us why someone should get involved with an SIC at a school.
You should get involved with SIC because you will really enjoy the experience. Going into an SIC meeting and being able to connect not only with the principal, but also with educators within the building and other parents and other community members, it is such a wonderful experience just to be able to be in community, to go in and hear about the successes and to be able to celebrate with the school, but also to be able to see that there is a part that you can play. So I would just say, you don't want to miss the experience, even if you don't think that you can maybe commit to being a part of an SIC on a long-term basis. Just attend one at the closest school to your community.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that you've mentioned a couple of times this idea that like principals use those SIC meetings as a way to kind of introduce some stuff that might be coming down the pipe. I know when I was on the Hughes SIC, changes to the dress code were first discussed at the SIC before they were talked about with the parents, and it gave parents a chance to maybe respond to some of the proposed changes
Absolutely.
before they
Yes.
became policy.
If you want to get the scoop before
Yeah.
the scoop becomes
I like it.
public, yes.
All right, Christi, so why should we get involved in our school PTAs?
You get involved with your school PTA because you want to help build a stronger community within your school. You want to show your child that they make a difference and that you can help them make a difference. My kids have been volunteering with PTA since they were like way little. And that helps build service in their hearts as well. And service is just natural to them. Also, we want everyone to join the PTA. Joining does not mean that you have to volunteer. However, we need volunteers. And when you're a PTA volunteer, that does not mean that you have to be a stay-at-home mom and you have to be at the school 24 hours a day. That is not what that means. That means that you can help fill in at the school carnivals. You can help with just little things. We have positions for every single person. We have things that you can do from home. We have things you can do on the ground. You can come and watch your child lunch while you're helping a teacher have a free lunch duty. Do you know how valuable that is to a
Yes.
teacher? So we just want to help support our teachers, support our staff, and support our students because that's what makes the difference.
Well, I just appreciate both of you and the incredible work y'all are doing in our schools. And I do think that our school improvement councils and our PTAs are really just a great way for individuals to get involved. And so thank you each for your work in the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Simple Civics EdTalks is a joint project of Greater Good Greenville, Greenville First Steps, and public education partners Greenville County.
Hi, Simple Civics Greenville County listeners, Nathaniel here. If you've made it this far, then we think you'll really love our newsletter. Sign up for bonus content, updates, and more right in your inbox. Look for the link in the description that says newsletter to sign up, or visit us at simplecivicsgreenvillecounty.org. Find the link in the menu that says newsletter and sign up there. We'll see you again next week.